Larry, how are you?
Welcome to Leaf Sales with Ian Nethercott and Larry Feldman live.
If you look at the last 4 years again, we've answered 41 million phone calls for dealers over the last 4 years with our AI platform. We've also handled over 150 million text messages. And so when you look at just those raw numbers, that's a 4-to-1, 3.5, 4-to-1 text to phone call. So I don't know. Here's what I can tell you, though. I believe that the customer wants to be met where they are presently. If that is text, voice, video call, if they want to be engaged and engaged instantly.
I've been fortunate enough to be using Numa since square one, but my opinion, I like to meet the customers where they are, because if I choose my preference in terms of how I want to communicate with people, I'm going to eliminate a large portion of my potential customers. The customer calls in from the outside. There doesn't have to be a person on the other side of the conversation, and it will be a transcribed, recorded transcription of the message, which is important, and it's real time, 365 days a year. So we don't lose anything. The customers that prefer the phone and the customers that prefer the text may be two different people, but the nice thing about like Numa as an example is you got both of those people in one spot.
All right. Good evening. Good afternoon, depending on where you are. How's everyone doing?
Great.
Fantastic. I'm not sure what was the title for this week, Larry?
The spring market.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what to put. I was like,
I'm glad I'm here.
For anybody that doesn't know, that's Tom Klein. He's running away from the dealers that didn't sign him up, that are now going broke from FTC fines.
That's right. Coming soon.
The octopus is here.
Yeah.
I'm in the house.
Sheila, when you hear us say something about tucking the octopus, it's nothing filthy. It's just Tom's strange way of advertising himself.
Yeah, I've been sending him octopuses I've seen everywhere on different things for a while.
It's true.
Yes, man.
Cars, all kinds of things.
Solid branding.
Yeah.
And it's branding. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. So who knows what about the spring market?
Spring market.
Well, Larry, this
go ahead.
Your idea.
Go ahead, Larry. Spring market. What's big happening?
You're muted.
You're muted. Oh, there you go.
Well, if you think about it, we're going into an interesting time, right? There are little concerns about war, gas prices. We're seeing unusual things happen with a lot of different dealership groups. But I'm always pretty confident with spring. I think we'll all agree that the mental aspects of life and what we do in business always come to the forefront. On a dreary, miserable day, we tend to be dreary and miserable. And when spring comes, I think people tend to feel a little invigorated. There's certainly some strange bumps in the market. I mean, you have to be unconscious or in a coma not to realize that car payments have got so ridiculously high that it's hard to really justify them under any circumstances. But I honestly think I think the spring market's going to be pretty good. You know, you've got the usual grappling. We're still trying to figure out what Nissan's going to do. One of my best friends owns a Chrysler dealership. They're still banging their head on the wall a little bit. But I tend to think that the spring market is pretty good. Mike, just so you know, St. Patty's Day is officially over. So you can wear
It's always St. Patrick's Day for me, friend.
Yeah, I will not argue with that. That moot point, that's for sure.
The good news that I've been witnessing is the independent stores are selling cars. Tax return, people are getting their tax returns and the independent stores are selling, and there's customers and there's activity. So as Larry mentioned, the spring market in New England, especially after a bad winter, is always good because we're done with the misery of the winter, and the activity is just natural. And so the flowers start blossoming. Everybody's more active outside. I mean, the other day, it was really cool to see. I mean, we had nice weather in West Hartford. It's a lot of places where you can walk your dogs and jog. And boy, everybody was out. Everybody was jogging and walking their dogs because we finally had some decent weather. But the used car market is always strong because it's the tax return season into a nice spring market. The Jewish people get to celebrate Passover. Easter is a big holiday, and it gets back to business. So I know the new car shingles, they gotta work hard, but they can live right now on their service and their independent, in their used cars, and that's where they should be focusing. And the new cars are gonna come around. I mean, that's the only way you gotta be focusing on it today.
Fantastic. Sheila, you've been on. I don't know if Sheila's been on before, but maybe Sheila has some thoughts.
I'm looking at fixed for spring, honestly. I'm seeing a lot of leads softening. You can't compare it year over from last year, really, because in March of last year, everything was upside down, and this is kind of a uncharted territory, but same thing we've always done. As he was saying, like a lot of people are leaning into used instead of new because of new car prices being insane. Slashing aged inventory to try to rip that Band-Aid and get it off the lot, and just kind of focusing on getting their RO number up. I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a lot of interest in fixed ops for electric specifically. I'd be interested if y'all have any feedback on that.
Well, we did a show on electric recently, so we had some opinions, but and there was people on the panel that own electric cars, and some are happy, some are not so happy. But I think electric cars will be an opportunity because sooner or later, the manufacturers who rightly or wrongly made some missteps are going to have to do something with electric. And I think we were talking about on the last show, Gary, around the leasing side of those things. I mean, they got to move them somehow, right?
Well, there's definitely there's used car guys already grabbing onto that market. So there's going to be some savvy used car guys in different markets will start buying up the electric EVs. Now, interesting that Sheila mentioned my car. I ended up buying out the car. I'm keeping it. So, but now I got an appointment with the local dealer, and it's like, okay, now I haven't done a thing to this car in 47,000 miles. I'm probably going to need tires. So how much are tires? And I'm going to have them go through everything and now tell me what my maintenance is going to be, because you're right. I mean, you're not doing oil changes. You're not doing any of that. So it's rotating of tires. How are the brakes? So I'm going to find out firsthand, probably, I don't know if it's either tomorrow or next week. I have an appointment with Hoffman Ford to have my car checked out. I just got a recall on a rear camera. And, the thing is I think Tony may have mentioned it. The beauty is I can keep this car. I don't need to go buy gas anymore. I mean, I plug the car in at my house at night. I didn't even upgrade to a 220. So I plug it in to get a nice setup Ford gives you, and I charge it all the time. And for me, I'm not on the road anywhere near how I used to be. It's perfect. I'll never buy gas. I may keep this car for a long time.
But do you think the service side, to Sheila's point, is an opportunity for the dealers where maybe either these cars were leased and they came back and nothing's been done?
Catering to that customer is definitely, because it's a blind. I mean, there's updates on your computer systems, and that, you know, they take, if you want an update, you got to be at your house and on your home computer. But if you're at the dealership, they can do all the upgrades. So yes, there's going to, because there's services needed on those, and that's where, and I don't know if he's not on here tonight. To Russell Hill's point all the time, tires. I mean, that should be, you should be coaching people on, you know, you're going to need a set of tires at 50,000. You're going to need maybe a set of brakes at 50,000, and start educating them so they know what their budgets are going to be. It's a perfect opportunity.
Hey, Garrett, here's something so simple. You know, we're always seems like we're knocking dealers. I'm at a dealer in Mississippi, a Hyundai dealer, and I needed obviously to dial into their internet. How great is this? Their guest internet. The password is "We sell tires."
God bless. Where's Russell Hill? Russell Hill will be loving that one.
Didn't Russell Hill say he was going on a cruise?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Disney cruise.
Right. He went with his
He's on Disney.
They're saying, yeah. But that's exactly what he's been saying. That's exactly what he's been saying for years.
So, Tom, we don't have you on that much. What's your thinking on Spring, other than obviously some AI dirty data problems? What are you thinking?
Well, there's the FTC sent out letters to 97 dealer groups last week and said that they're being deceptive in their advertising. So that's what's keeping my phone ringing this week.
97 dealer groups?
97 dealer groups.
Ooh.
So we figure 10 stores per group.
Wow.
Nearly, I mean, you do the math, 1,000 dealers, something like that.
And what's the fine or downside on the fines there that they're looking at?
Well,
It's the national debt of Peru.
Close. This was a warning letter, so there are no fines that are being meted out.
Right.
But it was a warning letter. If there had been fines, it would have been $53,088 per violation.
Ooh.
Wow.
Ooh, that's a big number.
Hey, hello, my friend, Mr. Klein. How are you?
I'm good, Gary. How are you doing?
Good. I've missed you. I've missed chatting with you. I'm glad you're jumping on with your exercise routine. So that's very, very cool. I was hoping that you were going to come on tonight. So for anyone who's watching, Jim Ganther from Mosaic did a wonderful job today explaining the letter and going through the 6 bullets that the FTC is giving them fair warning. And he did a great job. So it's a 30-minute video. It's on my profile. I posted it, and you can watch it. They put it on YouTube. But the reality is now that everybody needs to understand, is bipartisan or not, is the FTC is now, it's made it real clear, is that the Trump administration is now your new FTC, and they're going to continue with don't do bad things to the consumer, or you're going to pay the heavy price. And that was the shot across the bow. There'll be lots of debates and talk about it, but the reality is you can't lie, you can't steal, and you can't cheat in the auto industry, or you're breaking the law. And so
Do we acknowledge the irony that you can't lie, cheat, or steal as an edict from the government? The government that has us $36 trillion in debt?
48.
And it's all
That's like Ray Charles saying to Stevie Wonder, the printing's a little blurry. Why don't you read it?
There were more, I don't know, Tom, maybe you might be able to chat in on this, but there was an ungodly amount of complaints to the FTC during the COVID period that they were basically shamed into not doing anything, and that they really needed to start stepping up.
I'm not aware of that, Gary. If you have information on that, that would be news to me.
Okay, all right, but there was an ungodly amount, where I'll have to go find where that is and I'll share it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that there's an increase in complaints 3 and 4 years after COVID when people are trying to sell and trade in their vehicles and they're $30,000-$40,000 upside down. So it wouldn't surprise me.
I'll find what I was talking about, but it was that the FTC, because one of the requirements from when you go really way back to the original laws is there was supposed to be somebody managing this, and you are supposed to have a complaint management system on your website, and the percentage of dealers that actually did that was very, very minimal, but that is written in some of the FTC rules when it comes to safeguarding.
I mean, you know, the FTC Act goes back to 1914. So this is nothing new. You know, you can't, it hasn't, it's up to the regulatory bodies to interpret it for modern times, right? For AI, for the website, right? They didn't know what a website was in 1914.
Right.
So enforcement actions will change depending on market conditions. But part of them talking about the deceptive acts and practices, you know, Live Nation was in their crosshairs until last week when apparently they settled. It was weird, but you know, everybody, he loves to hate Live Nation too, because you never know how much you're going to pay for a ticket.
Yeah. And then there's a question around, are those tickets real or are they just setting them up, right?
Hard to know.
Yeah, it's hard to know. So, Alec, I hear you're moseying on into the North and South Dakota territory. Maybe you can comment a little bit on what you think's going on for spring, obviously being warm in that part of the world versus what it is now.
I will say, if you have a sufficient supply, you've built up technician teams, you're probably looking pretty good in Colorado for sure. The technician market is tight, and you got to be developing your own in-house.
Or call Larry Feldman.
Yeah.
Or call
Larry Feldman. Well, I know somebody that could use you. I'll send him your contact here.
Do that as quickly as possible, because my spring market.
You got a guy. Mike, you got a guy.
You got a guy.
Yeah. I saw, before the show, I probably saw 20 dealer groups looking for tax. 20.
Really? Yeah, listen, folks, we're now officially going off the air, and I'm just going to get all the lists from Ian, okay, and Al. Okay, business is business, you know.
Answer that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a deal.
I'll go kidding aside. Let me know who they are.
Oh yeah, I'll send you more. Absolutely. There's even one they're having a big shindig with food and all this stuff because they're trying to figure out how they can attract them.
If they don't use me, here's what the food will draw. They will get a tech. They will go out to dinner with the service manager. They will shake hands, and then I'll go back to the store he's at and ask for a 12-cent an hour raise. Trust me.
Well, if you are looking, Larry, there's a group called McManus Auto Group, and they're having a big hiring. All right, they got 20 rooftops. McManus Auto Group. Yeah, they have multiple rooftops, and they're having an event.
Where are they located, Ian?
They're in multiple provinces. So in Alberta and British Columbia, they have 20 rooftops. They're buying more.
Okay, we can go back to the show. I shoveled them.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll send that to you. And then we almost always get Mr. Larkin at the end, but why don't we get him in a little bit earlier today? Go ahead, Mr. Larkin. What do you think?
Well, it's 25 degrees here, waking up in the morning, and Wendy Reeves is complaining about 100 degrees in Arizona. Springtime.
Mike, it's the day after St. Patrick's
so
Day.
long.
You got plenty of antifreeze in you. Stop.
Yeah. You know, it's inject the venom. So I mean, yesterday was kind of unusual for St. Patrick's Day to see still there's pockets of snow still on the ground. spring is sprung. As far as the car market, I'm hearing a lot of things this morning on the FTC laws, and a lot of people in Clubhouse popping up with, well, what are they talking about? Can I say a price and then having the small print on the ad saying doesn't include certain fees? That's exactly what it's talking about. You can't put a number and say not the number, and that's deceptive. So that's what the FTC was talking about, and I'm like, I'm not a car dealer, and I know that. So, you know, it's some weird, wacky conversation, but it goes to show that a lot of people that are supposed to be in the know. This is a group that meets every single morning at 6:45 in the morning and goes to 10 o'clock at, you know, and they should know this stuff, but it's incredible how many don't know. And are they turning a blind eye to it? I don't know. I mean, Tom would be able to explain that better, but going into the spring and having FTC going, yeah, hold your horses for a minute. You know, they're going to activate these AI bots that they don't, you know, they can put 10 people in a room and audit 10,000 rooftops for 10 people. How's that good for ROI for the FTC when they're starting to come down on the majority of folks that aren't doing it right by law? So it ought to be interesting. I can't wait to delve into this more with Tom in a week.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Back to you, Ian.
I think when you look at it, you've got not only, you know, obviously challenges with inventory, you got challenges with staffing, but more importantly, to your point, you may have a huge impact of more car sales now that the weather's improving, because people may have shied away from buying cars because of weather more so than normal, just because it's been a very cold winter across North America. So, I mean, I know it's 100 degrees, whatever in Arizona, but I mean, even Nashville was getting snow and wind and ice and stuff. So you're going to see some, see some pickup there, but also you're going to see people that you maybe haven't seen in a long time. So I think not only technician staff, but also sales staff and management staff, there's got to be a big, you know, hiring to meet demand for that. I think as we roll into the summer, especially with inventory levels the way they are. I mean, it's not like there's a lack of inventory on the ground, right, anymore. It's a question of what are you doing with all this inventory and what are the foreign costs, right? In my opinion. Abdul, you haven't said anything. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
Provided that they're you know, buying their inventory out of you know, the service. I mean, they're all talking about how the inventory is low and how they are having a shortage on product, but yet Gary told me last week that they don't. One of the places that he visits don't even have a process where they're going, hey, we'd like to assess the value of your car. They're not even asking. I mean, how are you going to buy a car if you don't start a conversation with them? You know, it's just like, oh, wow, they're missing.
Yeah, it's clearly turned into a lot of these stores. If the owners a long time ago decided to start tightening things down, and that it was an uphill climb and you can't fight City Hall, they all just kind of mope around. And they don't even want to hear, they don't even want to learn, because it's like their ideas for many years have been squashed. So there's going to be, I think, a real decent recovery coming into 2026. But what it's going to look like is training in every place. I mean, it's got to be training in the service drive, training with fixed ops, training with answering the phone, training. It's just a service that for the last 20 years, it's kind of been let go and neglected and let go. And now it really needs to be retightened up for a new vision. It's digital. Young men and women can come into the auto industry and start selling cars and making money and having a quality of life better than what they had with their previous jobs. The dealerships are beautiful. They're clean. It's nice to come to. These are beacons. I mean, and the auto industry will be very resilient because the local community relies on them. So that's where you focus. If you got to buy inexpensive cars through an auction to sell to your local people, go buy them. If you can't go find them at the auction, they're in your service drive. Start stepping up, and when your customers are coming in, offer them $500 more than a wholesale, and maybe they're ready. But it's the conversations. I mean, I've been working on this for a long time, and I've just put together a turnkey solution for the service lane. I mean, there's so much fertile business going on in that service lane that is completely untapped and has been ignored because the OEM never pushed it. You've got dealerships that ran on fixed ops and they run smooth, and sales is gravy. And then you got the rest of them, they're chasing numbers, the service department's neglected, and the customer's getting a poor shake. Time to turn it around. There's plenty of positive stuff. You can't sit this way.
Abdul from Kabul, what's going on? Tell us give us the skinny.
Well, the good thing is here, as far as disclosures and switch and bait, California is very strict. Sacramento every Monday morning pretty much looks at all the ads and everything else and with a fine-tooth comb. So last 20 years, all the extra rebates as far as student grads or military and all of that does not go into the ads. Those are offered upon that. Yeah.
You were talk about that a little bit more, because that's what they were talking about. And California starts everything and then everybody follows. And exactly what you said, if you could talk about that, because that was what Jim Ganther was talking about today, and that's very important.
And that is what I can tell you, because 20 years ago, exactly when I was finance manager at Cerritos Auto Mall at the Browning Group, and because the ads come in on the 1,500 trucks and the minivans and all of that, and you'll put military rebate, new grad rebate. California took it all off. He said, no, those are not allowed for all the consumer. If it's not allowed for all the consumer, you cannot put it on there. Now, once the buyer arrives, then the salesperson and the closer and the manager will ask, are you student? Are you new grad? Are you military? Then you get it. And that was a huge stuff. And then the fonts. They changed the fonts to make sure what the MSRP is, what the rebate is, what the sales price is, and what the net price is.
So that's what's going to be. That for the dealers that haven't been breaking out their disclosures, they're going to need to have their software or whatever just made to break it out more where the consumer can see it.
And the only thing California allows to put on the addendum is the alarm, because it's for their protection, and it's $495, no more than $495. And the disclosure says it's available for dealer protection, and it can be removed if you don't purchase it. And then we just have a switch and go take it upon when it's coming out of the wash. Then the salesperson the finance manager calls the salesperson to activate or deactivate the alarm. And the activation is about 95%. Consumer keep about 95% of the alarm, and about 5 or 10% deactivated, and there they go. Wow. And the other good thing is, as far as inventory and the weather, it's been really good the last 2 weeks after a cold thing, and we're not at Arizona's 100 degrees, but we're in the high 80s, high 70s, and low 80s. And inventory has been very good as far as used car inventory is concerned. And the new car, the problem is, of course, still with Honda, only Toyota and Kia has no problem with inventory. The domestic have a problem with inventory in California right now with the tariffs as far as that. And then, of course, the upside down is huge. $8,000 to $10,000 on minimum. And where can you bury $8,000 to $10,000 unless you get a Dodge truck or something like that that has $5,000 rebate or $7,500 in lieu of finance and subsidized financing. 2.9% is huge. Plus $1,500 factory cash. So that helps out up to 72 months. So that helps out the new car. And on the used car, it's about on the average, they're about $1,500 over retail, and the banks are adjusting on going up to 125% of MMR.
Wow.
You have to do what you have to do, and we're making sure that most of the dealers I talk to do not go beyond 84 months, even though it's tempting to go 96 months, but they're sticking 75%, 72 months, and about 25%. As long as the credit is there, 84 months. Only on new cars. On used car, max is 72 months.
Yeah, because that's the other challenge is when you had people during the pandemic that were paying too much for cars and then they're in a long loan and they want to switch that out. I mean, that's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity depending on how you structure the next one. And I think inventory levels on new are going to be high, but the used inventory is going to be a challenge. So there's definitely going to be some interesting moves, I predict, around the EV side, especially on the leasing side, but also on the used side. I think you're going. Do you think used car prices are going to stabilize, or do you think they're going to go down?
Well, right now on EV, we're in very, very good shape in California because the supply is there, and the lease, of course, the 2-year on Tesla. And BMW, the 2-year 73 or 75% residual, and plus a $1,500 cash back. So they're pushing it all towards 2 years down the line, and then reevaluate 2 years down the line, reevaluate the market, and especially with the gas price in California being at $5.49 now.
Well, you saw that BMW just launched their electric 3 Series. That was all over the news today. So that it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Just because
Southern California and Northern California are huge on EV because Irvine, Newport Beach, South Orange County, where I live, and San Francisco, San Jose, it's a lot of electric. 50% of new cars is pretty much Tesla or electric, which is Kia is doing a very good job. And so electric is California is the leading in the country as far as the number of electric car leased or sold per month.
Right.
Hey, David, when you get a minute, you can jump in. We're talking about what our thoughts are for the spring market. I'd always like to hear your thoughts when Abdul is done.
I'm done.
Yep.
I'm done. Thank you.
David, it's all you, man.
I think the biggest problem that I'm seeing with a lot of dealers, at least in my area, is still the same problem you had for a little bit on inventory that we experienced during COVID. Mm-hmm. But we're seeing it more so on the new car inventory. And before, I thought there was a lot of manipulation with the OEM to kind of change our focus from gas vehicles and hybrid vehicles to electric vehicles. I felt that they were specifically building out more electric or trying to build out more electric to kind of fulfill an agenda with politics. We knew we weren't ready from an infrastructure standpoint, but we need them. And there's a place for them, but they also have to be affordable, right? You have to look at it and say, hey, can I put an EV charger in the south side of Chicago, even though the houses are not wired for it, and no installer in his right mind really want to go in some of those areas to install it for the people. They would love to have it, right? So you look at that and you're like, okay, this is great. You're going to put it in infrastructure. You're going to make people in Ottawa who mainly are truck people, V8 people, 4-road people. A lot of them are farmers. Yeah. They're our working backbone of America, and you're trying to make them use an EV in an area where you're like, where can I charge at? Oh, there's 3 in 30 miles. And it's more than that, right? But the reality is that all of this infrastructure that was coming, all this money that went towards building all this infrastructure, well, that money was set 7-8 years ago. Where the fuck is it at? Okay, that's a problem, because the money that was supposed to have been allocated to a lot of this stuff never happened. Now, so there's so many reasons, and there's so much drama that's surrounding it, right? The bottom line is EVs are here. They're affordable right now in the used car market. So right now we're seeing a used car influx of being able to buy used EVs and make a freaking profit on it, because they're fitting under that $35,000 range, a sweet spot of used cars and new cars that we need to be at. But here's what's happened. We messed around with tariffs, right? It's tax season. Every Chevy dealer should have a shitload of Trax and Trailblazers. Every Kia dealer should have the right SUV under $35,000, because people want to buy. But what I'm seeing is a brand like Stellantis that had a percentage of the market, and you don't have a vehicle under $30,000 on a new car to put those people in. So, you know, again, you're making the Korean product manipulate what happens in the United States. So I have nothing against Korean products because I own one. But the bottom line is that, you know, I'm not saying America, and the Trailblazer and Trax aren't made in America. Okay. I mean, that's a Korean built vehicle, and majority of parts from everywhere. So I'm not stuck in that. But what I am stuck is just have the freaking inventory. You know, Mazda all of a sudden has some inventory. They're getting a little light, but they're selling. All of a sudden, Mazda's like, oh, that's the new premier luxury brand. Mazda all of a sudden is a competitor with Honda and Toyota. Why? Because we don't have enough Toyota inventory. We don't have enough Honda inventory. So what are we focused on again? We have to be better used car dealers. We have to fight for acquisition. You know, we got to get into a fight with Carvana and CarMax. Well, we always need to fight with them, and there's always ways for us to buy cars. But we're still running the same problem. Training. We need Larry to train us how to buy a car.
Right.
Okay. It's a problem. We need AI to help us do our job. What are we missing? Just listen to the fucking phones. I mean, excuse the language, but goddamn. I walk in and I just listen to the phone call. And they go, well, there's your problem. And then they're like, oh, you know, and I have a dealer that rents mobility vans. And he does it at a pretty cheap price, and he works deals with people. And he's got this whole fleet of rental vans. And he goes, yeah. I said, well, let's go through the process, because you're advertising. You got 60 calls on Facebook. You got 18 calls on your website. Google says you got 153 calls. Now, I think Google's full of shit, okay? But that's a whole different story. But let's just look at the 78 calls. You rented 10 times last month to people with mobility issues. Now, around holidays and certain areas, people need these vans for handicapped people. In fact, by law, there are certain requirements in order to move people from the hospitals to events that are handicapped and have disabilities. So I'm a little passionate about that, because I have friends and family with, you know, family like this. So I kind of looked at it and said, well, let's look at the process. Where does the call go? Well, it gets transferred to our service writers. And I said, so the service writers the service managers team, actually, they have a lady in there that handles the rental cars. And I said, oh, she does a great job listening to her calls. I said, but they get the calls, then you guys transfer them to her. And then I dug deeper. And I said, well, she leaves at 4:30 and she gets in at 8. I said, do you know that 42% of all your phone calls come in before 8 o'clock and after 4:30? They said, oh, yeah, the service manager answers it. The service manager, I said, he can't look at his fucking email, let alone take a call about renting a vehicle because he's got some issue with a customer, or he's trying to handle a CSI issue, or he's trying to work with a warranty company. Whatever it is, your service manager shouldn't be selling the product. So I'm looking at the dealer, and he's just like, so what do we do? And I said, well, as a short term, rather than an AI agent, because that was the first thing out of their mouth, I said, either you can do two things. Wendy from BDC Angels right now is answering the calls for your overflow. And she's picking up calls and calling people back that didn't show up for their appointments. She is doing a good job there. She's calling people on their recalls. And then she's taking the calls after hours. Middle of the month last night, she had 158 appointments up, okay, for service. To do 300 is amazing for calls after hours or no shows. And getting recalls. In fact, I have nobody to call on a recall list because her team is so aggressive. You know, there's a team of 4 people that 24/7 they're handling it. And for the cost, it's the same price as a freaking AI product. Okay. And I have humans doing the job. So I'm like, I can put her team on it. But they're like, no, we don't want them scheduled and we want to handle that. And I said, okay, that's fine, because we want it handled by the lady in service because she knows how to get X time. I said, okay. I said, well, okay, then the BDC, at least they'll pick up the phone. And then if she doesn't answer, they'll take a message. And, you know, if it's after hours, the BDC will get the call. I said, but here's the problem. There's still going to be people calling after 8 o'clock, calling around the time we close. And maybe the BDC is going to miss those calls. I said, so maybe you only miss a few calls. I said, but let's always start. And this is with everything, you know, start with the problem as to why. And that same analogy goes back to our leads, goes back to our inventory, goes back to our ordering. I mean, nobody makes a freaking relationship with their district rep anymore from Chevrolet or Kia. It's like they're the adversary when they come in. It's like, guys, you need to talk to these people and get that inventory and let them know what their needs is. Somebody needs to get on these panels and say, hey, we need inventory. Now, I think the tariffs, though, we're still hitting a backlash of people going, you know, it's not that profitable to send it to the U.S. Let's just make that car for somebody else in another country and let's send it there. And we also have to look at how GM and Ford and other manufacturers look at the global sales here in the United States. Where are we making the best bang for our bucks? So, you know, right now it's confusing with inventory because when you see inventory on hand and when it's coming in, sometimes it comes in right away. Sometimes it comes in 3 months, sometimes 5 months. We just don't ever know when the inventory, and there's so lack of communication from the OEM to the dealer, and the dealers just start asking why. I mean, if I was on a dealership, I'm sorry, but I have to hold an OEM accountable because we have a franchise agreement. You can hold me accountable for compliance and running your standards and running your logos and not giving away the material to be too cheap. So therefore, if you're holding me accountable, then I need to hold you accountable, you know, because I need X amount of inventory to satisfy the need of my market. So we could sell a lot more new cars if we just focus on a couple things, giving us the inventory, making things affordable, whether they're gas, hybrid, or electric for the consumer. Because eventually, you know, BVD, a company like BVD will, BYD, I keep saying BYD will be here, or a version of it. I mean, they technically are here in buses in California.
They're here with Volvo. They're already in. And so the Ford move was, you know, pretty strategic, and hopefully they keep control over what happens, because if it's done correctly, they can bring in another inexpensive vehicle and control it, you know. And I mean, it was no different than back in the day when Mitsubishi was building cars for Chrysler and Plymouth. Well, you know, it's already happening. I mean,
it's got to happen, though. I think from a standpoint. I mean, but you know, we have to think about long term. We have to think about our leasing programs, our financing incentives. I mean, it's not good enough just to have 0% anymore.
No, the creative financing, that one is there has to be some new ways.
You got to bring back the Smart Buy program.
Yep.
The balloon note financing. You got to bring that back because, you know, not everybody qualifies for a lease. But let's figure it out differently on a balloon note. Let's give it another way. I mean, some of these OEMs have to take back charge of their finance companies.
Correct.
You know, Stellantis is a joke on the finance side.
Right. No, yeah, exactly.
It's a little too stringent. And even like Volkswagen, for example, I mean, you know, you could have a person that has a 670, but they don't qualify for a, you know, and their debt to income is right, but not necessarily will they qualify for their 0.9%.
Well,
and you know, it's BS. You know, the guys make all their payments.
It's the credit rating. They're going off of the bureau. But yeah, no, balloon notes, weekly payments, you know, we keep on talking about a solution for the people who are upside down, $5,000, $6,000. I mean, dealers in a creative market, as we heard, they need to take like some of these vehicles that have a $5,000 rebate and work with the customer of using that $5,000 to offset it, but not put them right back in another nightmare where they stretch them out 96 months and put them at a G note. No,
Yeah.
start building equity and show them the opportunity if you did it on a weekly basis. And look at, you can do, because you can pay an extra payment and you can pay maybe an extra 2 payments. And so that's where the shift is needed by the OEMs and their finance sources. Ford would always come out with something like, their red carpet leases and things like that. And, Hyundai's financing and Kia, they bail them out. And the finance arms on a lot of these OEMs can bail out a failing OEM very easily with a good program.
Yep. And here's the other thing. Many years ago, when we started putting all these apps and electronic integration in cars, Ford came out and they kind of patented the process, and they said, you know what, the consumer is the product. We're not the product, the consumer is. Because if the consumer said, hey, we're agreeing to open up our life and our buying habits to you with a thing like CarPlay, okay? And we're going to share all our data with you so that all of our purchases throughout our life, you know it. So what we wanted to do, Ford wanted to do this, is they wanted to give you a car, track all your data, you're loyal to Ford, and as part of that loyalty, they almost gave you the car for free then, just to drive it, especially an entry-level car, so that everybody in America would have a car. Now, Hitler was crazy, but he wanted to make sure every citizen had a vehicle and every citizen wanted a job. Now, what he did to try to do that was, sick, but he had a thought there. And I think Ford had a thought for a minute with their technology patents of saying, hey, we want you to have every part of your integrated life to do with us. We want to more or less be your Amazon Alexa. We want to be your shopping tool, but we want to know all your buying habits so that we can help you. But your driving habits, we want to monitor it for what you need. Now, again, that whole big brother thing in a car thing, I think kind of scared people 20 years ago when they started talking about this. But the reality is now we're pretty much doing that anyway to them. But we have to figure out a way based on the privacy laws should be getting stricter and stricter here, just like in Europe and other parts of the world. And if that's going to truly be, then we need to barter with them and say, hey, we want to know your driving habits and whatever habits. And more or less say, hey, we see that you commonly go here to this. Here's an incentive to go there. Here's an incentive to buy with that person. Here's an incentive to go to KFC. Not that I eat at KFC. But seriously, there has to be a better way, whether it's balloon note financing, whether bring a cheaper brand in. And then the cost of, and I hate to say this, Gary, but the cost of these extended warranties and stuff that we pile on to people. And when they go to turn them in, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming when you cancel something, the rule of 78 applies to stuff, right? But
there's been laws that have passed because it is disgraceful for what some dealers are charging for those in the first place. I'm nauseated. I looked at I was getting a demo today and they were showing me some examples, and I don't know where the profits are in certain dealerships, but the profit on a service contract 10 years ago should be no different than the profit on a service contract today. If the cost went up, okay, but the consumer is getting like whacked by a lot of these, and that is unfair. But the bank laws now have turned, if there is refunds, that's getting a lot tighter, because it used to end up on the F&I manager's draw that you got fired, where the refund checks were and where all the, problems were. The consumer protection is all over that, because there's so much the F&I rules and the abuse that's gone on in the last 20 years of what customers had to go through. I mean, that whole department needs to be rerun and regulated more than it's ever been. And they can't just say, since they use a menu, that they're compliant. And that's
Gary, it's there's an old expression, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And when you get involved with regulations, there always seems to be the law of unintended consequences. The franchise laws, David, aren't what they don't seem to have the same vulnerability that they had 20 years ago. And my rep, you've all heard of like the one person sale, where only one person involved. Well, they had a one solution: take more cars. Hey, I can't sell the cars I have. Take more cars. It'll be just fine. It'll all magically
We'll
work.
throw 5G rebates at you.
They should look at us. They should look at us. I'm not being facetious here or simple-minded, as partners. But they often don't. They often look at us and we look at them as adversary. When I was a dealer, the thing was they want to jam as many cars down our throat. They didn't want to take CTSs with no nav when everybody wants the nav in the CTS.
Right.
And the manufacturers resent the dealers, it seems like, in a lot of ways, because the things we do may appear to be contrary to them. But we fight for our lives. And because we shoot ourselves in the foot so much. But listen, this thing lit me up today when they said we sell tires as a password. How brilliant is that? How simple that in order for the guest to get the password, oh, you sell tires. That should be the kind of thing where you don't need it because everybody's selling tires.
Right.
I just had a conversation. I won't say the name of the place, but a buddy of mine went in to help with the overall health of the dealership, and they like, oh, we don't bother with tires. I mean, how stupid can you be? So
Exactly.
I think more importantly than ever, you got to take the words of the boxing referee. I'm a fight fan, and the last thing they say before the fight starts is they say touch gloves, and they say two things: obey all my commands, okay? But then they say protect yourself at all times, because if you get hit on the brake, it might be illegal, but you're still knocked out. More than ever, you have to protect. Before you jumped on, we had Tom Klein on. Besides being a hell of a good gentleman, he should be the busiest guy in the car business because he can protect you from getting hit with a $7 million fine or worse, or being put out of business.
And
But
it's there, but dealers are like, oh, I got an insurance policy. I don't care, Dave. I don't
The
care about
insurance
my
policy
security.
is $3 million, and they
yeah.
get hit by $30 million. Yeah, ask Mapleton about their insurance policy.
Well, and
Well, I
see, and that's where Tom spends a lot of time with dealer principals, educating them on where the coverages are and when they fall in place. Fraud and deception and deceitful, you don't have an insurance policy for that. And, they used to do, because years back I worked for Universal Underwriters, and I would go out with the claims manager, and everybody thought that because they had a policy that, Universal was just going to pay if they made a mistake. No, we don't have coverage for that. And there's still today a lot of them that just think that since they're paying their premium to Ally or whoever they're paying, that they're just going to come in and save them with a lawsuit. And these lawsuits are way outside of what their coverages are.
Listen, you're Gary, you're in court, but you're not in court against Larry Feldman or Alec or Ian. You're in court with three nuns. The jury and the judge are going to look at the nuns and go, I don't know, this Silman guy looks a little shady. We're car dealers. When I was a car dealer, we were like lower than vermin. It didn't matter that we did community events, that we helped charities, that we hired veterans. So you gotta have to figure out a way to protect yourself at all times, to stay profitable. And I guess we all kind of agree that you have to make a profit. We're capitalists, but you also have to think long-term. And that's the problem with most salespeople. It's why I'm so busy, because salespeople don't think long-term and then they leave the dealership and they need me, God bless them. But we need to think long-term as dealerships. We need to nurture our people. Listen, I'm not that expensive, but it's way cheaper to keep your people than it is to call Larry Feldman or any other recruiter.
Yeah, the easiest thing to do, to me, the easiest thing to do is to coach your people. For most dealers, though, it's the hardest thing for them to do, to coach your people. They would rather prune the tree that they're calling and go, we need to plant more. And I'm like, it takes a long time to get that plant to grow, man. Especially the right way.
David, everybody on the show, and boy, is it nice to see Sheila joining us. Thank you. Are bright people. I've enjoyed my relationships with you, my conversations with you. We're all logical. I know so many car dealers from my 20 group meetings that are out of their minds. They seem to be bright, competent people, but they'll put their arm around me and say, by the way, I get rid of my guy. I was paying him too much. I paid him 2.25. I got a guy to do it for 1.25. And I would say what David Russell would say. Well, wait a minute. Were you paying them a salary? Well, no, it was the percentage of what they produced. Well, if they're paying a percentage of what they produced, you're not paying them a damn thing. They're earning it. And if you pay the guy that can't produce at all, you've lost. Your net's gone the wrong way. So with that kind of thinking, this is going to put a smile on Rosick's face because he's Mr. Technical. They're trying to save their way into a profit. That doesn't happen. If you don't spend intelligently and monitor what you're spending and what your ROI is, you're in trouble. Don't you agree, David?
Well, I agree. You know, the problem is you have this preset notion as to what you want to spend on a general manager, a service manager, a marketing director, a BDC person. But a lot of times people who are in sales roles, they set their own, salary. If they make more, you make more.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a very common sense thing. I kind of looked at that today. I had an interview with a company. And first I talked to them on Monday just because I wanted to broker some of their products. And they're a full agency. I like the idea they did co-op. They had a videographer, a social department, a pay-per-click department. And there are 3 companies in one. Been around for a long time, but they're kind of small. And I went to go broker their products. We start talking for a few minutes. After we're done, he's like, okay, would you like to just come to work for me? And I said, well, show me the pay plan. So they showed me their playpens and I laughed. And I said, guys, I've been writing pay plans all my life for dealerships and employees. I said, and here's the thing. I said, I get it. If you want to pay me 40% and a 1099 employee, that's great. But to have me to go around to help train you, do your job and grow to the next level, I said, I'm not just a salesperson then. Okay, I'm really your manager waiting to take your CEO's job. I said, so if you want to invest in me, you have to have a little bit more base. And right away, they flipped out another pay plan. And I kind of laughed and went, well, you're the lowest guy that's offered me anything in the past 4 months. I said, the only thing going for you, though, is you're real people. And I like you. And I can broker you. I said, I've already kind of printed out your business card in my head. And I want to go to work for you. I said, and I can see how your agency can grow and I can sell your products in other agencies. I said, I just need you to really think about what you offered me. That's all. But I mean, when it comes to pay plans, it really kind of blows my mind that anybody would sit there and go, oh, we're paying them too much. I'm getting this guy, I'm getting him for 125. And Larry, I was a victim of that. When I became a GM at 27, it was simply because they could pay me half the amount that they were paying the other guy. The problem
I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the logicality or the lack thereof of saying this is what this guy earned and he received too much because he made the company too much money. That's insane.
When I broke 300 cars with them and I started making as much as that other guy because he was doing it making 100 cars. I was making more money than him at 300. And I didn't know that until one day I had a talk with the guy. But I really looked at what I made for him, and I was kind of fine with that. And then I broke it to the next level, and then he realized he could sell his store for a lot more money. So I was sorry to tell you that stupid ass story. But you're right, Larry. I don't get it. The cost, what it costs to train a new person is amazing. But getting back to the inventory question, there really needs to be communication, some issues and conditions put on from the dealer body on the manufacturing side right now. We need to reevaluate our lending side and what we're doing for people. We need to come up with more creative financing. Our criteria for lending needs to change. If I was president, I would just make everybody's credit score right now 1,000 and go, okay, great. Everybody, you're going to go back to 1,000.
David, you can't be president because he's not taking a salary, and David Rosick doesn't work for free. You're too valuable.
I don't know about that. He makes a lot more money than me. Of course, he did stiff me on a job in California at his golf course, and
that's another story.
Yeah, that's another story. I worked on a LED job that I broke.
But wait a minute, hold on. I want to take a poll. Is there anybody on the show that hasn't robbed David Rosick? Because I think we should get a collection.
Oh, it's okay. Hey, you know what? Keep robbing me because you know what? I do enough good for other people, and people always come about for me. You know, I'm the only person I know that can make a 6-figure income and be unemployed every month. And I'm happy about that. But here's the thing.
You're not the only person, David. There's a whole bunch of Somalians that have the same deal in Minnesota.
You know, I used to broker parts to those Somalians, and they're not bad people.
Where's the latest fraud that we just saw?
I think California, they've uncovered that all the money went south.
Oh, no, there was a hospice fraud.
That's it.
Right.
Hospice now Somalians. Hospice.
Medicaid, yeah.
No, wait a minute, Tillman. I did apply. I mean, I believe that we're all mortal, so I know I am at some point going to die. Why wait till the last minute to make the arrangements? So I'm applying for that.
We wanted to collect investment income on that.
No, what I want to do is I want to build a Larry AI agent, so whenever I go and visit your gravestone there, I can ask you a question and you can talk back to me forever.
Now, there's a good.
I'm going to continue.
I
I'm
would
not going to
invest
shut up
in
even when
that.
I'm dead.
That would be very valuable.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, if I can put all of your knowledges into an AI and your headstone could talk to you, you know, your kids would have to live up going, man, I had to listen to that asshole again. God damn it.
David, you can put all my knowledge into a thimble, okay?
David,
I know 3 things and I got 4 jokes, and that's how I made my fortune. Listen,
Come with the
it's
AI
7 o'clock.
Praise of AI.
It's 8 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock.
Well, listen, I'm in godforsaken Mississippi. Sheila, Alec, David, everybody. You have no idea how much fun we have with you and how much we appreciate you. Sheila, please don't be a stranger. And David, I swear to God, I didn't forget the SOAR thing. I've never been this busy in my life. I'm not complaining. And Rhonda, I just signed somebody else up while we were doing the show. I'll call
Of course you
after.
did. Why am I not
But Larry,
surprised?
I want to make everybody's AI avatar and character on here, but there's a reason. You know, that's my social media. I like to make fun of you
David,
guys.
I'm raising my hand. I want you to make an avatar.
I want Michael too.
Ask Gary, ask
Whoa.
Michael.
Michael is an avatar. We didn't know how to break it to his family.
And
Hey, guys,
still can't dance.
Just think, I
gotta
could get you
run.
guys to live forever as
We
my avatar.
appreciate
Make
you.
fun of
Thank you so much. And Sheila, please don't be a stranger. We
Yeah.
love you. Everybody, I
Thanks,
gotta
Larry.
roll.
Hey, everybody.
Be safe.
Thank you for helping the industry get better today live.
That was the more bombs than we